And I read that article, or at least portion of the article yesterday from CNA that was quoting Father Gerald Murry, and we have invited him onto the program to talk about the canon law in regards to this case. Good morning to you, Father Murry.
Good morning. How are you?
Praise be to God, I am alive, and that counts. How are you?
Great. Doing just fine. Thank you.
Pastor of Holy Family Church up in New York City. Are you ready for the very busy Christmas octave?
We are getting ready for all of the, beautiful celebration of our Lord's birth, and then the feast of Mary, the Mother of God, and then Epiphany. It's going to be a beautiful season ahead of us.
Amen to that. Praise be to Jesus. Well, this was a big story. I mean, I think it continues to be a bombshell for so many Catholics around the United States for sure, but around the world even. And as a canon lawyer, I was interested in your comments. As I said, I read part of that article from the Catholic News Agency yesterday. Can you just start by outlining the principles here? What canon laws were referenced in this case, and how do they apply to him in particular?
Well, what we know about the case is because the nuncio to the United States, Archbishop Christophe Pierre, wrote a letter to the American bishops informing them that Father Pavone had been returned to the lay state or dismissed from the clerical state, which means he was removed from the priesthood. We did not get a copy of the decree which affected that, but it was a reference that there was what was called a supreme decision issued by the Holy See, following an investigation and a process at the Congregation for Clergy. So that means that the Congregation for Clergy looked into two charges that were cited, the only charges cited. One was blasphemous communication on the internet, and the other was disobedience of his bishop. So those were the two charges. He was found guilty of those, and the penalty was removal from the clerical state. And that is a question mark because in canon law, those are offenses. We're not allowed to do those things. There are canons which regulate punishment to be issued for if you engage in those type of misconduct. But the punishments do not include removal from the clerical state or being thrown out of the priesthood. So that was a surprising thing. The penalty went beyond what was prescribed in canon law.
So what are we to make of that then? If these aren't the prescribed punishments, how do we read in? Should we read into that? I mean, it seems like that means somebody somewhere along the chain really elevated this to the maximum potential.
Yes, it means that either his local bishop requested at the Holy See impose that penalty, because local bishops do not have the power in canon law to remove on their own initiative one of their priests from the priesthood. They can't do that. They can't dismiss them. The Holy See can do that, and therefore that could have been the answer. It could have been that the Holy See was consulted on the matter by the bishop, and the Holy See recommended that. We don't know. And until the decree is issued, we don't have the actual document which affected the removal. Now, the removal is affected because the Holy See has taken this step, communicating it to the person involved, meaning Father Frank Pavone. Apparently, he claims that he did not learn of this action until a Catholic News Agency called him last Saturday. So that's a question mark. Is that true, and why did that happen?
Would that be normal? I mean, he is still stating, and we're going to ask him actually, but he's still stating that to this day he's not been officially informed. I mean, he knows obviously because it's in the media, and the CNA has sent him an email asking for his response. But he says neither the bishop in Amarillo nor anybody from the Vatican nor the papal nuncio have officially informed him of the case. If that is true, that's got to seem odd as well.
Yes, well, it remains to be seen, and that would be a good question to ask the Holy See. How was Father Pavone notified that he was no longer a priest, that he had been returned to the lay state? Was a physical letter sent to an address that he had given, that let's say the Diocese of Amarillo uses to send mail to him? Was the notification sent to the bishop, and then the bishop did not, maybe try to inform him but didn't? Now, in the modern age, between telephones, emails, tweets, e-message, instant messaging, it's pretty hard to say you couldn't track someone down, particularly a person of that public status. So we need to know if efforts were made. Now, the removal of the priesthood doesn't depend on him being notified of it. So if he didn't get notification, doesn't mean it didn't take effect. But it does mean that he should, if he wasn't informed of it in a timely manner, that there was an injustice done to him, because certainly when you're involved in a legal canonical matter and it's a decision regarding your whole life, you should be informed.
Father, there's one thing staying on the same topic. A number of reporters have contacted the Holy See Press and other outlets to try to get a confirmation about this topic, whether or not he received or was sent a letter letting him know. But the other thing that's interesting to me that I just cannot wrap my head around is the idea that he has no way to appeal and that he doesn't have a right to a defense. Would this have happened beforehand, assuming that Father Pavone isn't lying? That mean he never got to defend himself? He didn't get to hire a canon lawyer, and he does not get to hire one now that he's already been handed this? Does that mean it came from the Holy See himself, or what does this mean?
Well, in the letter that Archbishop Pierre sent to the American bishops, he stated that Father Pavone had ample opportunity to defend himself. So it's up to Father Pavone to tell us, when did this canonical process begin? When were you informed of the charges? What was your reaction? Did you participate in the process? Did you offer evidence, et cetera, et cetera? So that's Father Pavone would be well advised to give a timeline and an accounting of what happened. But secondly, a canonical appeal means a decision of the Pope cannot be appealed to any court or administrative body of the Holy See. There is available to him a direct petition to the Pope seeking a favor, which is the favor would be restoration to the priesthood. It's not an appeal, canonically speaking, but it is asking a grace and a favor from the Pope. That's within the possibility of his actions.
We're seeing a lot of division over this issue. One more thing to be divided about, I guess. And there's a lot of heated conversations happening right now over this. There's a tremendous amount of Catholics, to include even myself, who are scandalized by what seems to be a disproportionate use of canon law, of these processes. Although we don't pretend to believe that Father Frank is, sinless. Of course not. Like the rest of us, he has sinned, and he's also apologized. But at the same time, have those sins risen to this level where he is removed from the priesthood, whereas we are seeing others in the clergy have committed incredibly grave crimes and yet somehow are protected? And I've read some articles on this, and some of these articles suggest that maybe we're just looking at this wrong, that there are different dicasteries, different groups of people involved, and we should just trust the system. But on the whole, there seems to be an injustice in their application. There seems to be a double standard. How do you see it, Father Murry?
Yeah, I think the punishment is excessive if he is in fact guilty of blasphemy, which I'd have to see the specific incident that he's alleged to have engaged in. That's a serious matter. And if he did disobey his bishop, well, the remedy for that is for the bishop to suspend him and then require of him to, begin obedience. So, and if he refuses to do that, well, that's to throw someone out of the priesthood is really an extreme measure, because you hope and pray that he'll change his mind. But, the priesthood is a gift through the sacrament of holy orders. And it should only be used for the most serious crime. We have a crime reported with this Father Rupnik, who is a Jesuit sculptor, who's accused of grave immorality, with multiple victims being women religious who are under spiritual guidance. And the Holy See decided that because the crimes occurred in the late 1980s, they weren't going to prosecute because it was outside the statute of limitations. On the other hand, the Holy See has the power to waive the statute of limitations. They chose not to in this case, even though this grave violation. I mean, Father Rupnik should be removed from the priesthood if these charges are actually proven in a canonical process, which I hope the Holy See would take up again.
If this is an abuse of these processes, abuse of canon law itself, could we see a further abuse? Like, in other words, we're creating a trend here where we are just leveraging these processes to take out one's enemies, one's opposition?
Well, when you use the law harshly and excessively to remove people from the priesthood or from their assignments, it looks like you've taken personal umbrage about the activities of this person beyond what the law provides. I don't have to agree with everything Father Pavone says or does, but unless he's, a serious threat and has, done gravely unjust things, to remove him from the priesthood, I believe, is unjust.
Would it be possible for Father Pavone to go to the Vatican in hopes of getting an opportunity to visit with His Holiness Pope Francis? Could it be possible that His Holiness might, reverse this? I mean, he did lift the excommunication of Father Rupnik, which was scandalous to many. Is it possible this could be reversed?
Yes, he can beg the Pope, basically put himself at the feet of the Pope and say, Holy Father, I believe I've been mistreated here. I can explain the charges. I will not engage in similar behavior in the future, that kind of thing. And the Pope could easily, if he wanted to, reverse it. He doesn't have the right to go to a court in the Holy See and say, I want my case to be reopened. That part of the process is over.
Father, real quickly, we have less than a minute left, but a number of people have been asking a clarifying question. What exactly does it mean to be laicized? Is he no longer a priest? What does that mean exactly?
No, you are a priest forever. When you're ordained, you cannot unordain someone. You can't remove the priestly character that was imprinted on his soul when he was ordained. He is just not allowed the right to exercise the priestly ministry. The only exception is in danger of death. Canon law provides that any priest, which would include a laicized priest, could absolve sinners in danger of death. So he's been given this grave penalty, which is that he can no longer function as a priest, with that one exception.
Wow. All right. We appreciate your insight into this, Father Gerald Murry. God bless you. God love you. Thank you for your time today, and Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to be right back. More breaking news and stories from Rudy Carlos, and Father Frank Pavone's going to give us a response. And where is he at with all of this? Was he notified? We're going to ask him. All that and more is coming up next. We'll be right back.